All right, welcome back. So we learned how to basically put together a simple React app here. And essentially we got the bare bones diagram matching what we're supposed to have as output. So from here, what I want to do is sort of reorganize the code and make it a little bit more intelligent, more organized, if you will, because I feel like working, within one file with having all these different components, especially as they get larger, is going to be really, really annoying and trying to figure out like where does what go. So let's use the power of ES6 and make these functions their own files. And then what we'll do is we'll export them and import them into our app. That would be a smarter workflow and more organized, because then we can just go to the file name and then edit the file, as opposed to hunting around in here and trying to figure out, okay, where's the header, where's the search form, where's the movie listings, and the movie, overall movie listing. So, and that's going to be one more thing we're going to create. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go back over to my terminal. And then from here, I'm going to create new files. So the first one I'm going to create is the header.js. So we'll do that. And actually, I need to move that. So let's move the header.js from being here into our source folder, because that's where React wants us to put all of our components. So we'll put it inside the source folder. And then you'll see there it goes. And then the next thing I want to do is create another file. So I'm going to say touch source this time. And then inside there, I want to create the next component, which is the search form. So search form. And we can just say search with lowercase and then capital case F to basically give us the idea, oh, okay, this is a component, JavaScript component. You'll see this quite often in programming. It's called Camel Case, where the first letter is lowercase and then the rest of the preceding letters, or the rest of the preceding words, are capitalized. So that's the convention that I'm going to use. So I'm going to say search form JS, just like this. Then also I need the movie listing, and this time I'm actually going to say I need a movie listing as opposed to movie listings, because there is a difference. So I'm going to go back over to this prettier diagram here. So a row with an image, a title, and a year would be considered a listing, and all of the rows would be considered listings. So in our table, we don't want to necessarily hard code out all of the rows like this. This doesn't make sense. So what we want is we want movie listings to have movie listing, a individual movie listing per row. And so that's what we want to create out. So that eventually this is going to become its own component. I hope that makes sense. So the next thing we want to do is go back over here and create the movie listing. So this is going to be the individual listing. And then we also want to create the all-encompassing movie listings component. Okay, so looking good so far. We have the search form, we have the movie listing with the movie listing. A little bit of tongue twister there, but you get the idea. So now what we want to do is essentially take these functions that we wrote and put them over into their files. So let's do that. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that I import React from React. This is a common mistake that even I make from time to time. I'll just paste in a function, and if I didn't have the import React statement, then this would all be wrong, because JavaScript doesn't understand any of this, like HTML or anything like this. So in order for HTML to work, we need to make sure that we import React, which will take all of our JSX and turn it back into React functions. And so just remember that. If you forgot that, be sure to check out the original intro to React, where I talked about JSX and what's going on under the hood. And then the next thing we want to do is make sure that we can export this particular code and make it available everywhere else as a JavaScript library. So I'm going to do export default, and we just want to say here I want the header as my default. So I'm going to save that. Then what I want to do over here is I want to bring it in. So I'm going to say import, and I want to say header. That's going to be the function that we export, and I want to bring that in from and I can just say, since I'm in the source folder, I can use the dot to point to that. And then I can say import dot and then the header JS. And I don't necessarily have to type .js here because this create React app is customized in a way that it can look for JavaScript files as well as CSS files and all the other files as it needs. Sometimes people still leave the extension. So, as a best practice, just use, you can leave the JS extension off if you want, or you can bring it in if you don't want to confuse yourself. So here I've got header, and so I can go down here now and just say, all right, I've got the header now, let's pull it in. And I need to use the same punctuation capitalization as whatever I've called it up here, otherwise I'll get an error. So if I save this, refresh, I still have my header, and I can verify that this is the header that I just pulled in by changing it here. So let's do that. And that updates on this side, and now I see search for movies. So this makes it easier to work with as opposed to having a bunch of code all over the place. We call it spaghetti code. So let's clean this up one more time. We got to pull in some of this other stuff over here. So I'm going to bring in the movie listings. And so I'm going to put that over here. Again, I want to make sure that I import React from React so it knows how to handle whatever I'm returning down here. Then some people actually just do this as a convenience. So you can do that too if you want. You can say export default. And if you want to use ES6, you can do that too. You can say, all right, I'm just going to say, be really lazy here and just say, I'm going to export a arrow function and then save, and then boom, come back over here. And essentially you can say, all right, let's import movie listings from, and then dot movie listings. Okay, so save that. Then basically I want to just, so it looks like it's already there. I just want to double check that everything's working just fine. So I'll save this, and looks like it works. All right, so cool. All good here. So two different ways, just to kind of summarize. I can either use original ES5 syntax, or I can use more traditional ES6 syntax. So whatever you want to do. But I just wanted to point it out to you. You may see different people do different things. So just giving you the basics here and there. Let's finish this up here. So I've got the header, I've got the movie listings, and I want to get the search form. So I'll save this. Now you get an error because the search form is not available. And so we need to go over to here and then do the same thing. So import React from React. And then I want to export default. And again, you can do it this way. Whatever you want to do is whatever you want to do. Some people actually, I think it probably makes sense to do it this way. So I'm going to actually do it and revise this a little bit. Rather than export right away, I am just going to make this, and I see this a lot. If you ever use something like Gatsby, it's a special JavaScript framework that helps you build websites faster. I like that one. I like Gatsby a lot. It's pretty cool. You'll see this kind of convention. So what they'll do is they'll create a variable, and then they'll save it in a function. And then basically they will export the variable. So this is a variable function, but you'll see this also. So 3 different ways to do it. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. This one is probably my preferred way of doing it because you know exactly what this is called, and then you can bring it down here and export it. So let's do that over here. So I'm going to say import search form from dot, and that's the current directory I'm in, search form. So save and let it refresh, and we are back in business. So we'll also go over some of the CSS in the next video as I clean this up a little bit more. And in fact, behind the scenes, I'm actually going to redo a little bit of this and then tell you what I did. So that way it's a little bit more clean and we don't have to worry about CSS styling, because I'd rather you learn how to build the app as opposed to getting stuck in the styling. And so I'm going to revise this quite a little bit on the back end, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you about what exactly I made as changes. It won't be too significant or too drastic. It'll be a lot like what you did, but we will just kind of like review it together, and then you can always review my GitHub as well, just so you can see, oh, this is, you know, what he did, and here's where I can get that code when I start copying and pasting what I put. All right, let's move to the next video, and I will see you there.